This is Zeeshan Kaskar and you are watching Esperanza 4.0 interview series. It is the second day of the Media Fest and we have a lineup of eminent speakers. Here we have today Mr. Zeeshan Kaskar, who is the multimedia journalist at The Wire. Very warm welcome to you, Mr. Kaskar. Please tell me, how are you liking it here?
I'm very happy to be here actually. Thank you for your introduction, Tanisha. First of all, I'm very happy to be here, to be amongst young people who are interested in, narrative making. So it's very interesting to interact with you guys. And I really liked the session also. I remember back when I was in graduation, I could have seldomly imagined the people in my class sitting for so long and interested also. So thanks to you guys, you made it possible, and I'm very happy to be here.
Okay, like I said, I am also a media student. I'm from second year, and this is also a very question I want to ask you. Like, how was your journey being in the multimedia journalism?
Yeah. Firstly, though, I was very confused because usually once you are any field you are entering, just as a student, I'm just reminiscing the time when I was a student. So I used to be I did not understand how do people write articles and what do they think before writing their articles, and how do one look at things, So the journey began not just with college and studies, but also what I did after the class was done, which is, unfortunately, in media studies in India, we don't read a lot of political science, we don't read a lot of sociology, and I think both of these things are very important if you want to work in the media. So if you want to talk about my journey, if I go back, I remember I started reading two people who have shaped my thought. One is Ramchandra Guha, who has shaped my thought in terms of the Indian politics. I'm much of a Nehruvian because of him. And all these ideas were developed during a time when I was probably a little younger than you. When I started reading about India and I started reading. The second person who inspired me was George Orwell. Apart from all the things, he was a journalist as well. And one should also understand that I understood it quite late, that when you are a journalist, you are writing the first draft of history. You're writing the first draft of history. Because 20 years, 25 years down the line, people will see what Tanisha wrote about Siliguri, and then they will judge Siliguri on that basis. Right. So you have to have that utmost responsibility while writing. So my journey began with actually reading these people, and once I read George Orwell, I figured that journalism is not just what you see on Indian television or what you read in the newspapers. I took my inspiration a lot from a lot of Western journalists I read a lot of books which were written during the World War II period.
Can you name some of them?
For example, I would say P.J. O'Rourke is one journalist who wrote about how peace is killing people.
Okay.
Just for example, he wrote how peace negotiations are killing people around the world. It's a very interesting book, very interesting. One must read P.J. O'Rourke. Secondly, I would recommend reading Orwell again, and his books on India and Britain colonial policies. Now that you ask me to names, I'm very bad with names, but let me think. You can just edit out some of it. But yeah, I think one important, there's one, not just Western, I would correct myself, I would say there's one very nice magazine which used to appear in the 60s and 70s. It's called The Quest. The Quest. And there are like compilations available of The Quest magazine where like the famous articles are compiled in like volumes. And you can actually, people who are listening, students who are listening, you can actually find those books online. So you can read what The Quest was doing. And the kind of journalism that they were doing, they were not just looking at the surface, because what you see on the surface is one thing, and what is happening below, what is happening underneath is the real story. And as journalists, you must see what is underneath. And when I read The Quest, and when I read all these other journalists, I really thought that, okay, there's much more to journalism than just the surface.
Of course.
So I was talking about my journey, so that's how my journey began, by reading. these Western journalists and other Indian old journalists as well. Because after, I think, I would say after the 2000s, journalism has become very poor in this country. They just, कि आपको क्या लगता है, आपको क्या लगता है, आपको क्या लगता है type of journalism we have. So once I completed my masters, and then I had a fair picture of what I want to do, I had begun with my masters by thinking, oh, I will just write. But then I realized that this is not going to, the multimedia is the end game of journalism today, at least for the next 50 years.
Yeah.
So I decided I'll enhance my video making skills, and that's where a lot of my teachers in MCRC came in handy. The things that I spoke downstairs to spend as much time. So these things are rooted inside me because of the professors I met and the people I met and the journalists that I met. So always be open, I feel. Even today I'm very open to learning. The process is never ending. I wouldn't say the process has stopped. For example, every other day the narrative making is changing. The way stories are told is changing. 10 years before, the story would have told me in a different manner, but today we are telling stories in different manner. We want the public doesn't have a lot of what is the word? The attention span is not big.
Right.
So nowadays how which is not right, really something you should look for. It's not a very, I would say, idealistic way, but I follow it since the past few months, which is I put my best shots. I put the best available information the first 30 seconds. And that's one reason, because of doing this is the limited attention span, and I want more and more people to
the hook part, basically.
Yeah, the hook part. Yeah, the hook also. And I also strive to see, कोई भी news है, कोई भी information है, it can be told in 4 lines and it can be told into 400 lines as well.
Right.
So I try to put that information smartly, creatively in like the first 30 seconds, so that even if someone is not watching the entire video, at least he or she should understand what the video is about.
Right.
So it's a never-ending process of becoming a multimedia journalist. So always you have to learn.
So considering our generation is very much driven to what we are exposed to online. So do you think this may have led to the upsurge of desensitization in the generation that we
could be. Yeah, now that you're asking me this question, it could be, because you don't have any control over what you're scrolling, right? Earlier, like 10 years ago, 12 years ago, Facebook used to show only the things which you have liked.
Right.
For example, it will just show me, you know what I'm saying here, जो चीजें आपने like की है, वही चीजें आपको दिखेगी. But nowadays the algorithm has changed so much that you are just seeing unknown people. पूरा दिन you are seeing unknown people.
Right.
Very thoughtfully I'm using these words: unverified, fake information, sensitive information, videos. So social media can make people go crazy, but also there's a flip side to social media, which is also helping the truth come out. Like it is helping The Wire become a big channel. We have like around 60 lakh subscribers on YouTube, which is not a small number, but it's not a big number also. But still, it is due to social media only, or multimedia only, that we are able to do it. So it's like a both-way traffic, but you have to choose your side wisely. And as you say in cricket, you have to play it ball by ball. Every ball will be different. Some balls will outswing, some balls will inswing. So you have, for example, the question that I was asked downstairs, a critical question rather, I would say, it was a good question. I did not mind it as much as your professor did.
Okay, moving on. Do you think AI is bound to be disruptive? And if it is, how do we mitigate that?
Disruptive, मतलब थोड़ा सा
disruptive, आप देख लो कि okay, let's go on a very basic level, deepfake.
हाँ.
So in those ways, do you think AI is bound to be disruptive?
It can cause some problems.
Yeah.
As you're saying.
In the future, maybe something can come up like that.
It's very hard to predict that, but definitely AI, we need to be very careful as journalists while using AI. One, though, it has. So I don't have a very polarized opinion on AI. I use it also, and I somewhere down the line also discourage its use, but I only use it for graphical content. Okay. I'll tell you why I use it. I'm not a graphic designer. I am a video editor also. I understand how to edit videos. Some bit of for क्या कहते हैं movements, After Effects also I do. But there's मेरी एक कमी है कि मैं graphics नहीं बना पाता, right? Graphics नहीं design कर पाता. So for me, something called an ideogram is a boon for me. क्योंकि वो I write it, I explain, I give the command, and it gives a decent enough graphic made. So I use it for that. I don't use it for writing because I feel it's very, very like one way. It has this problem. So I don't want to delve in it. There's a thin line between copyright and these things. There's a thin line between using it, not using AI. I don't know how to answer your question actually. Really, because I use it. The only answer to your question is you can use it carefully. If it can be disruptive in the future, I can't really predict it. But human race is, I have a belief in Indians and Indian human beings that कितना भी हो वो वायलेंस इस हद तक नहीं जाने देंगे कि मतलब एनार्की जैसी सिचुएशन पैदा हो गई हो. तो मुझे थोड़ा सा अपने देश के नागरिकों पे भरोसा है कि इतना डिसरप्टिव एआई की वजह से शायद आगे चल के ना हो, ये मेरी आशा है. So yeah, that's what I'm going to say about AI. I'm not an expert on AI. I'm sorry.
It's all right. I think, yeah, that's all about it.
Thank you, Tanisha, and thank you for being nice to me and not asking very critical questions. Thank you.
I really had a good time talking to you. Thank you,
Thanks,
Mr.
Tanisha.
Kaskar.
Thanks.
So that's about it. We'll be back with another interview very soon. Thank you for watching.